Tonight, we're going to begin in Revelation chapter 6. And this is one, as far as I'm concerned, one of the most significant, especially for those in our position, passages for us to begin to look at, because I think you're going to see, or we can see, and probably have in days gone by, how much things seem to be matching up. And I'm not trying to overdo that or overplay that at all, but we just want to see what the Bible has, what Jesus had to say, and what he had to give us on the things that are going to take place. So you remember that John was caught up in spirit into the throne room of God. There he saw the Father and the ones that are around him, the four seraphim, let's say, and the 24 elders, and the great uh, and all of the goes on there, and the angels that are out all the way around that, thousands and thousands of angels and all. And but when he saw and looked, he saw uh, that the Father had a scroll or a book in his right hand, and there was no one found worthy to open the book. You remember from last time. And so he said, "Who's worthy to open the book?" And no one was found worthy. But finally, the Lamb was found to be worthy. And so they all go through the worthy is the lamb that was slain. And so all of them have their times of worship of the lamb. And now the lamb is ready to break the seven seals. The breaking of the seven seals, the first four of those are a setting up of the world, almost the world political system, I guess you would say. So there is a seraphim, or a what he calls a living creature, a living beast, in each of the four directions: northeast, south, and west. And he actually starts, I believe, to the west, north, then south. But when he gets around to the east, then that's when the worldwide uh, kingdom comes into play. That becomes the Antichrist kingdom, is the fourth one. So they kind of take their place. And as we read those, I want us to examine, as you might, if you read my book, you've seen already that I talk about comparing uh, Revelation chapter 6 and Daniel chapter 7. And I want us to look at that again tonight, because Daniel, uh, somewhat about almost 800 years earlier, had this the visions and the explanation by Gabriel and all of that. And so he was given an understanding of the things. And when you see the things that Daniel was shown, and you compare them to what John is shown, especially in the breaking of the first four seals, actually the fifth seal as well, because it goes right on down uh, the line, but especially these first fours, we're going to look at them first. You see that there's an explanation that helps us to gain understanding that we might not get if we just read Revelation by itself. And so Daniel seems to help to understand Revelation. Revelation helps to understand Daniel. So that which was concealed in Daniel is revealed in Revelation. That which is revealed or concealed in Revelation, often concealed in a sense in Daniel. And so I'm going to, though, tonight, I'm not going to start. I'll start with I'll read this first verse, and then the first of Daniel chapter 7. I think is the way I will do it, and then I'll go to the beginning of the explanation that Daniel's given. So let's begin with Revelation chapter 6, verse 1. Then I saw when the Lamb broke one of the seven seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures saying, as with a voice of thunder, come. And he who sat, and I looked, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on it had a bow and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. Now, there are, uh, like the commentaries that I read a lot on this, one of them says this rider on the white horse is talking about Christ, and so a lot believe that Christ is the rider on the white horse, and we will see him again. We will see Christ on the white horse, and there is nothing bad said about this one. He has a bow and a crown was given to him, went out conquering and to conquer, but it doesn't say that he was demonic or anything really bad about him. And so there are some that say, well, he is Christ. But here's the thing I want us to understand. It's a couple of things. One is he is one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. So the four horsemen of the apocalypse go riding out together, and they are alike in a sense. I started to say they're in agreement, and they're in agreement as to their types, I guess you could almost say, but they are not, this is not Christ. Christ still has the book or the scroll in his hand, and he's ready to open the next seal. And so he hasn't gone riding out in all of that. And also, this one, maybe we'll see him again later on. But when we first start, there is a shout. The shout of one of the four living creatures hollers, "Come!" My thinking is that this is the one who looks to the west. So everything in all of this is Jerusalem is the center. It's the epicenter of everything. And so all of the prophecy revolves around that. So these are four living creatures out in four different directions. And when this one calls, he calls to the one, and I believe it's the one who comes from the west, west as far as Israel is concerned, as far as Jerusalem's concerned. And you can tell somewhat by the description. So this one's white, the white horse, the next one's a red horse, the next one's a black horse, and then a pale green, the Greek word chloros, horse that is the color of death, and it is death, and it will bring about death to many people. And so that's the four horsemen and the four horses as they go out. And I believe they're in four different directions. I believe the white to the west, the red to the north, the black to the south, and then the green covers, even though it's to the east, the last of when we're in Revelation, the armies of the east will be coming out, and there's 200 million men in that particular army. But this first one, this rider, it is a worldwide kingdom that is made up of the ones, the white and the red and the black, all together with this pale green, and they become the worldwide kingdom. So anyway, so that's the way that starts. Now, when we get into Daniel chapter 7, let's read those first few verses. It said, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel saw a dream and visions in his mind as he lay on his bed. Then he wrote the dream down and related the following summary of it. Daniel said, I was looking in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven were stirring the great sea. So this is humanity being stirred by the four directions, four winds. So the north, east, south, and west, or as I said, the west, north, south, and east, are stirring up the great sea. And these four great beasts were coming up from the sea, different from one another. The first was like a lion and had the wings of an eagle. I kept looking until its wings were plucked, and it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a human mind was given to it. Now, this, I believe, is a description, is the same as of what we've seen of the rider on the white horse. And so the rider on the white horse was given a bow and a crown, went out conquering and to conquer. This one is a lion, like a lion. The lion is the king of beasts. The eagle is the king of the air. And between the two, they are a mighty force. And the other thing is that if you were to look, and I'm not going to do this for all of them, but let's just do it for just this particular one. So this is the royal crest of the coat of arms of Great Britain. And so here you'll see, first of all, on the very top, wearing the crown, but actually on top of the crown of the world, is a lion standing. And then off here on what would be, I guess it would be left as I'm looking at it. So I guess it would be the same for you. I'm trying to think if it'd be backwards for you. But anyway, but notice it's standing on 2 feet like a man. And you won't be able to see here that it has claws like a bear, and but it has the mouth of the lion. Also, the white horse with a small horn, which it's a unicorn. So, but anyway, this is just to give you an example. So this is their symbol. What is the symbol of the United States? Symbol of the United States, of course, is the eagle, the bald eagle, and it's this is symbolic. And so the lion has the wings of the eagle. Like he said, I kept looking till the wings were plucked. Now, I'm going to skip from here. We're going to come back to this, but I'm going to skip from here down to where he gets the explanation of all of these things. So Daniel's vision interpreted, because I think it helps us to understand Revelation as well as the book of Daniel, to go directly to the interpretation. So Daniel chapter 7, it's toward the end of this same chapter, Daniel chapter 7, verse 15. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was distressed within me, and the visions of my mind kept alarming me. I approached one of those who were standing by and began asking him, in other words, the angels that were standing around. I approached one of those who were standing by and began asking him the exact meaning of all this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of these things. These great beasts, which are 4 in number, are 4 kings who will arise from the earth. So Daniel is going to see the lion with the eagle's wings, and then a bear with laying on its side with 3 ribs in its mouth, and we'll talk about that, the Russian bear, and then the leopard, which is to the south, I believe, of Israel, and would be probably the descendants of Ishmael, the Arabs, and they will have the 4 different kings, probably those who are maybe signatories of the Abrahamic Accords. I'm not sure whether these will be or not, but they are united in a sense in setting up a dominions given to them, and they will set up a world system for a period of time to try to save as many people as they can after the World War, and after so much is destroyed of the United States and of Russia and Iran and Turkey and all of those. As the balance has to be formed, these will work to bring about, but it will be a caliphate. It will be an Islamic government, would be my thinking, and it will have requirements in order to be fed. And so many will die because of the famine and the lack of food and supplies that will be in that time. But so there are 4 great kings, and all from 4 different directions. We started this chapter out, and he said the 4 winds were blowing from the 4 different directions. And so this wind that's blowing out of the south, or the wind that's blowing out of the north, or the wind that's blowing out of the west or east, these are he says are bringing about these 4 great beasts, 4 in number. Now they start out here by saying they're 4 kings, and later it will say that they are also for nations, but they're the kings of those nations. So if I were to ask you who is the king of the Western, um, of the West, who would you say as the king of the West? So normally you'd say the president of the United States because he dominates all of the West, even though, yes, England and Canada and others are an important part of that. Nevertheless, there is one that's a king of the that you'd say is king of the West. Another is the king of the North. Another that you would say is actually the leader or king of the South. And so, even though it has four kings, there's one that is actually, that has four wings. There are four, uh, uh, and there's a fourth king from that. But then he said, "But the saints of the highest one will see the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and forever." Now, there is and that's probably as far as I'm going to go right now because I am going to want to go back to that. But the saints of the highest one are going to go through great, great persecution, both under the third, the rider on the black horse, as well as the rider on the green horse, the pale green horse. There's going to be a terrible time of persecution of the saints of the kingdom, and yet they are going to be the ones that will receive the kingdom and possess it forever, for all ages to come when the time comes. So they'll possess the entire earth. And so that gives you some idea of what we're talking about. Maybe it does. I hope it does. And so we looked at then we saw the seven seals, the breaking of the first one, the rider on the white horse, and corresponding to that one, we also saw um, the the uh, the four winds of heaven, the four great beasts coming up from the sea. The first, like a lion, had the wings of the eagle. So we saw that as being the first, and that I believe is kind of where, if I'm not saying that the seals are being broken at this time. I'm not saying they're not, but I am saying that you can see, I believe, what will be the one. You can see, in other words, these kings that if we're at the time that it appears that we are, those kings are already existent. They are already in place. And so maybe they've already come into office. I know the king of, like the king of Saudi Arabia, as long as he is alive, the crown prince will not be king, I guess. So, but he is in charge right now. So it wouldn't be proper probably to call him a king, but maybe so. I don't know that he is even the one. I suspect. But there's the king of the north, and the king of the south, and the king of the west that we've already seen. And the last one that we're going to see and spend the most time on, of course, will be the king of the east. And I don't think we'll get that far tonight. And so, but anyway, he said, I kept looking until the wings were plucked. I don't know what is going to happen. But I will tell you that I'm talking about to the armed military force, the flying portion of the military force of the United States. But I will tell you, whether you be Navy, Marine, space, Army, whatever, Coast Guard, the wings of their ability to fly is where the power really is in the system of the United States, Great Britain, and those that are part of that circle. They have That's what has caused them to reach the place of being the dominant power in the world, and they can exert power just about anywhere in the world. In fact, they can exert power anywhere in the world uh, with the weapons that they have. But notice there, he said, I kept looking until its wings were plucked. I don't know what is going to cause that. I do know that there are some things that are rolling up in the sun itself, that where that there are some things that if they were to go, there's already been some bursts, I guess you would call it, that have caused some disruption in some electronics and some communications and things like that. But there hasn't been one of such major power, and especially one aimed directly at the United States. There was one aimed directly at the Earth. I think about maybe a week ago, or maybe it's a little longer than that. But it was not of that high a power. But as if one of these of great power that are spinning up, as they burst forth, especially as it comes directly toward the Earth, that would probably, the winds, the solar winds, would blow away much of the satellites. It would cook much of the electronics that wasn't blown away, and so that possibly would be something that would cause that. There's also things that certain countries can do. Uh, there are several countries, uh, North Korea, China, Russia, and especially those, and maybe a few others that may have weapons capable, but three at least that I can think of that would be considered enemies of, could be potential enemies of the United States if things went a certain way sideways, that they would have a tendency to want to ground America's Air Force and to stop the communication. And that could be done by something called the Compton effect, where a nuclear weapon is exploded at high enough atmosphere above the world, above in outer space, that it causes a EMP, electro pulse, a pulse of radio wave that burns up and sends great high voltage through a lot of the electronics and shuts off the power and all that. There's a lot of different ways it could be done. It could be done with a cyber attack. It could be done, through kinetic means of bombs and other weapons. There's just a lot of ways it could be done. But he said, I kept looking until its wings were plucked. And so, whatever that means, however the wings are plucked. Now, in Revelation, it doesn't tell us that. It doesn't actually say anything quite like this. It just says he went forth conquering and to conquer, and then it continues to watch until the rider on the red horse takes peace from the earth, and that may be an indication in itself that the rider on the red horse. But the three of the North Korea, China, and Russia could all be called riders on the red horse, as could um, well, anyway, they're not the only ones that have nuclear weapons. The more I think about it, that could be considered the rider on the red horse. I believe myself that the leader of that and the king that is talking about probably also is already in charge and is prepared to pull the trigger on something that would pluck the wings there, that he believes will pluck the wings from the lion, and so that he has to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a human mind was given to him, so that could take place. But that's the breaking of the first seal is what that is talking about. And so I'm going to go back to Revelation, the breaking of the second seal. He says in verse 4 of Revelation chapter 6, and a red horse went out, and to him who sat on it, it was granted to take peace from the earth, and that men would slay one another, and a great sword was given to him. Now, the great sword, the greatest weapon that's ever been developed, as far as we could think, as far as especially as far as uh, explosive force and all of that, and probably in so many different ways, the greatest weapon would be the nuclear weapon. And we know that Russia has the nuclear weapon. In fact, they probably have more. nuclear weapons, I think, that we have, although they don't have maybe quite the means of projecting the force of those into so many places. China and others, North Korea, could also cause great havoc, but they don't have quite the access, I don't think, to nuclear weapons that the United States or Russia has. But it says a great sword was given to him, and it was granted to him that men would slay one another. So when he takes peace from the earth, then men will. It's going to be open season, and so there will be a great amount of death, and we'll see in other places when we'll look about the amounts of people that will die because of all that. But he'll take peace from the earth, and men will slay one another. So there will be the beginning of the killing begins with the rider on the red horse. The second, when the second seal is broken, and so in Daniel, he says about this. Let's see, verse 5, and behold another beast, a second one resembling a bear. And you know that's the Russian symbol. So the symbol of Russia is the red bear, or the bear, and in this instance raised up on one side, like it's leaning up on one side. Three ribs were in its mouth between its teeth. Now it's a good possibility that what that's talking about will be something. It's a possibility it'd be something like Ukraine, maybe Georgia, Belarus, some of those, or it could actually be Ukraine, could be Turkey, and it could be Iran, but there are at least Turkey and Iran from Ezekiel 38. We know that they are going to join in this war on the side of the northern power. So, and that is the ones that are coming down against Israel when this all starts coming apart. So it's a possibility that the bear has already begun his hunt, that he already has ribs in his mouth, that he already is devouring and eating as much meat as he can take. And so he's taken Crimea. Now he's taken part of the Ukraine, and other nations around there taking parts of it. But Putin, Vladimir Putin of the of Russia, is really desirous in this short time to reconstitute or bring back in under the Russian umbrella the what used to be the Soviet Union. And I think he wants to go farther than that. I think he wants all the nations that were part of the Soviet Union, all the way down into to Germany and all, as well as take lands that did not belong to. In other words, to be a stronger uh, uh, kingdom, I guess you would say, than was the Soviet Union. And so it may be part of Europe, probably is, and also, though, I think would be the Middle East. Tried to go all the way, and in fact, it sounds like from reading Daniel chapter 13 and no, I mean Daniel chapter 11 and verse 13 and like that, and then this and Daniel um, 7 and also down at the 13. It makes it sound like, to me at least, that he is somewhat successful in doing that. And Daniel 11, it makes it sound like he goes all the way down through the Levant, which is around the eastern shore of the Mediterranean, and then all the way down into Egypt and into parts of Africa. And parts of Africa will be joining in on this to aid him in all of that. And he will be trying to bring all that together when the things will start to go sideways for him. And as we read about in Ezekiel 38 and 39, we're not going to read there tonight. But anyway, the second one resembles a bear. And so then going back to Revelation chapter 5, he broke the third seal. And I heard the third living creature saying, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. I heard something like a voice in the center of the four living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius is a day's wage, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not damage the oil and the wine." And so that's the writer on the breaking of this third seal. And so in Daniel chapter 7, verse 6, the way he says it, "After this I kept looking, and behold another one like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it." And so it doesn't say as much as Revelation did concerning that. But in Revelation, it says when the black horse that he has a pair of scales, and this is talking, the pair of scales talking about famine. So weighing out your food. And so, and then I heard something like the voice of the center of the four living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius." In other words, a quart of wheat for a day's wages, or 3 quarts of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. The idea is, in other words, a quart of wheat would be enough to make bread for one person. If that's what you were eating was bread, you could make enough flour and make enough bread for one person to last for a whole day. But for a family, a day's wages would get 3 quarts of barley, which would be about the same food value, but would be barley instead of wheat. Not considered as good, but it would at least keep a person alive. And I don't know exactly what it means by "do not damage the oil and the wine," unless there's going to be plenty of oil and plenty of wine, even though there's not enough food. That's what some people believe, that the oil will not be damaged and the wine will be plentiful at that time. Maybe that is what it means. I don't know that for certain. But then when the Lamb broke the fourth seal, and this is the one then where the Antichrist kingdom is going to come out of this. But to start with, as he broke the fourth seal, the voice of the fourth living creature shouted, "Come." And he said, "I looked, and behold an ashen horse." Ashen, the word here for ashen is chloros, as I think I've shown you in days gone by. Let's see, why did that not switch? Let me do this. So let's see. Give me a second. It's not cooperating with me as I want it to. Okay. Let's see. Dictionary. Chloros. So the word chloros, you know what chlorophyll is. It's the green that's in leaves. And chloros is what is the color green. And that's why it's called chlorophyll. It's a greenish, pale green. Some as would say, as for the horse, would be a dun colored, or anyway, that's where that comes in. Let's see. It probably wasn't worth looking into, but anyway, we did anyway. But he said it's an ashen horse, and he who sat on it had the name Death, and Hades was following with him. And often, as we're going through Revelation, we'll see that Death and Hades hangs out together. Death is riding on the horse, but Hades, hell, or the grave, is following with him. And in Greek mythology, actually, I think Hades was the stronger power, the one that has the ability to hold the souls of all of those who have died, and death is the means whereby he puts them into his care. And yet the church, the gates of hell will not, or the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. So even though we will die, we will not be held by death or by Hades. And Jesus overcame death, as you know, it came forward because they could not hold him and brought forward the keys of Hades. And so the church now is delivering from Hades those who are being saved. And but this one, his name is Death, and Hades was following with him. And notice they're given authority over a fourth of the earth to kill with sword, with famine, with pestilence, and by wild beasts of the earth. We're going to see more of this idea as we get farther into Revelation. But the authority is over a fourth of the earth. I've tried to figure out, could it be talking about that he's in the east and that the authority is over the east, the fourth part of the earth in the east, in other words, one direction, to kill off by these means. But I think what it may be saying, he's been given authority to kill a fourth of humanity, is what, and I think that's the way it's generally taken, and I think that's probably is the case, so that he has the ability to kill a fourth of humanity. And how? With sword, famine, pestilence, and by wild beasts of the earth. Now, later, when we get into the last half of the Great Tribulation, the last 42 months, the Christians are going to die. You may remember by plunder, by sword, flame, captivity, and plunder, by those four means. So again, here is sword, famine, pestilence, and by wild beasts. There it's by the means of that the Antichrist will bring about that I just mentioned. So that's the first four. Now, when we get down to the fourth beast, then I want us to real quickly now for just a second go farther than we did earlier down here in Daniel's. Let's see. Then verse 19. Then I desired to know the exact meaning of the fourth beast, which was different from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, with its teeth of iron and claws of bronze, and which devoured, crushed, and trampled down the remainder with its feet. So this last kingdom will, even though it maybe does come out of the east, I'm not sure that it does, but the fact of the way it looks, the others all came from what appears to me from a different direction. This one may very well come out of the Orient, maybe China and those that are with them in those days. But this one will set up. This is a worldwide kingdom. It's also the kingdom that the Antichrist will be in control of. Now, is the Antichrist what some of us are already thinking is the Antichrist the one that was riding on the white horse? Could that possibly be the Antichrist? And could he be the one who seems to be insignificant at first, as we're going to see here in a little while, but then comes up and actually takes charge of this worldwide government? And it's a possibility. But the thing that you notice about this one is that he devours it and crushes and tramples down the other ones, the rider on the white horse, the red horse, the black horse. He tramples them all down, and they all are brought in, trampled down, crushed, and devoured, brought together under one king. Now, those three, they will be able to continue to exist all the way through the tribulation, and probably all the way starting into it, maybe through the millennial. This one will not. It will be destroyed at Christ's coming. Now, he says, and the meaning of the 10 horns. So, we haven't read that part yet, so maybe I ought to wait. But there's 10 horns on his head, and another horn, a small horn that comes up that takes out 3 of them. And that horn has eyes. And the main thing that you'll see about him all the way through, even when he stands before God in judgment, his mouth is still uttering great boasts. and he's larger in appearance than his associates. He starts out small in the last, when he comes back to this part, when this comes about, he starts out small. He's not one of the original uh, leaders, but he is somehow brought into that. And when he does, he takes charge. And he's an ultimate narcissist, uttering great boast and appearing to be larger than his associates, than all the other kings. And so Daniel said, I kept looking, and that horn was waging war with the saints and overpowering them. A lot of what we're going to be looking at through the rest of the study will be the war being waged against the saints. And I've said, and maybe I've said to you, that you see what's going on, how that the entire world seems to be turning anti-Semitic, and so they're going against the Jews. But I also said that will change soon. Instead of being against the Jews, it will be against the Christians, and the Jews will be part of that because they will accept Christ. But it's against the saints, and so that's what this is. This horn, this one, is waging war with the saints. And I noticed today that there was an anti-Christian riot, the kind that they were having about the Jews and all of that up in Washington State, at Seattle. Today, now they were having one, and the war was against the Christians, coming against them. And when we get into the 12th chapter, we'll read about how they overcame him by the word of their testimony, by the blood of Christ, by the word of their testimony, and because they did not love their life even to the death. So the saints are going to be fighting, and are going to be war will be waged against the saints, and they will be overpowered until the Ancient of Days, until God Himself, or maybe in the person of Christ, came and judgment was passed in favor of the saints of the highest one, and the time arrived for the saints, when the saints took possession of the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast will be a fourth kingdom on the earth, which will be different from all the other kingdoms, and will devour the whole earth and tread it down and crush it. So my own thinking is that the first beast, even though he goes forth conquering and to conquer, with bow and a crown and riding on the white horse, the reality is that he's basically over the West, over Western, the Europeans, Western Europe, all of that in that area, and then all the way across Great Britain, United States, Canada, all of that, and all of those that are considered, I guess you could say, considered white, and that is his, the rider on the red horse. Even though there are others that are communist, or come out of communist governments, have communist forms of government, the main portion of that comes out of Russia. And so we think of that. So there's a fourth out of the west and a fourth out of the north, a fourth out of the south, which I believe will be those Islamic countries that it will form the maybe a I'm guessing it will be a Sunni caliphate, is what I think it will probably be. Although it may be the Sunni and Shia may go together, I don't know about that. But I think it'll be over about a fourth of the earth. But then when this one comes in, this fourth one, this fourth beast, he will be a worldwide, form a worldwide kingdom with all of the different kings and kingdoms and all of that. He will devour it, and he will tread it down and crush it. And the 10 horns, there's 10 kings. So when he sets up this government, there will be 10 horns and 10 kings over 10 regions, as the way it sounds like. But out of this kingdom, 10 kings, and out of the kingdom, 10 kings will arise. And they'll just be kings for a short while, not even for 42 months, but for a short while they will be kings. 10 kings will arise, and another will arise after them, and he will be different from the previous ones and will subdue three kings. So this one that comes up after them, the little king, the little horn that comes up after the big horns, the 10 horns that come first forth, he will, and it doesn't say it that way here, but that's what it says in another place, that the 10 horns, that three of the horns will be taken out by the little horn, and the little horn will actually be the superior of all the rest, and he will be the mouth. So out of this, in this kingdom, there will be the mouth of the lion, the feet of the bear, and the wings. Let's see, uh, the body of the leopard, feet of the bear, and then the mouth of the lion. Well, the mouth is the part that we'll hear the most about because it's what he says, and he's got a human mind, a human aspect. He speaks out, and he speaks out against the Most High. Blasphemies, all kinds of blasphemy against the Most High, almost challenging God, and speaking out against God. And he will wear down the saints of the highest one. So by captivity and plunder and a sword and flame, he will wear down the saints of the highest ones, and he will intend to make alterations in times and in law, and they will be given into his hand for time, times, and half a time. This is the first time we see this, time, times, and half a time. This is for a year, 2 years, and half a year, for 1,260 days, or for 42 months. The next time we'll see this again, time, times, and half a time, is in the 12th chapter of Revelation. There, it makes it absolutely clear that it's 42 months or 1,260 days. It mentions all three. So time, times, half time, 42 months or 1,260 days. But it says the court will sit for judgment. His dominion will be taken away, annihilated, and destroyed forever. And then the sovereignty and the dominion, the greatness of all the kingdoms under the whole earth will be given to the people of the saints of the highest one. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all the dominions will serve and obey him. So Daniel says at this point the revelation ended. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts were greatly alarming me, and my face grew pale, but I kept the matter to myself. So this is Daniel's way of explaining it. I know this is different than the way I've done it in days gone by, but I wanted to get this perspective, first of all, of how that Daniel and Revelation, how they kind of work together. So you'll see all of that. And now the part that we just were finishing in Daniel, this is the breaking of the fifth seal. When the Lamb broke the fifth seal, I saw underneath the altar the souls of those who had been slain because of the word of God and because of the testimony which they had maintained. I've always thought of this as the souls being under the altar in heaven, but I think it's Wesley that said that. Let's see. Let me just real quick. I want to just check something to see if it is Wesley. Let's see. This is the way Adam Clark puts it. Let's see what Wesley says. When he opened the fifth seal, all of the four seals have a close connection to each other. These all refer to the invisible world. The fifth to the let's see, these all refer to the invisible world. The fifth to the happy dead, particularly the martyrs. The sixth to the unhappy, and the seventh to the angels, especially those who to whom the trumpets are given. So anyway, that's the way Wesley puts it. Let's see what Clark says. There's no animal or other thing, but the whole is intended to comfort the followers of God under the persecutions and to encourage them to bear up under the distress. Yes, this is the one I was thinking of. I saw under the altar a symbolic vision was exhibited in which he saw an altar, and under it the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God, martyred for their attachment to Christianity. are represented as being newly slain as victims of idolatry and superstition. The altar is upon earth and not in heaven. This is Adam Clarke, and one of I hadn't thought about it that way, but after I got to thinking about it, so I will give you this way of looking at it, and you can see what you think about this. But the human being is body, soul, and spirit. When a Christian dies, where does their spirit go? So where's the spirit of Christians? It's with Christ at the right hand of the throne of God. Paul said to be absent from the body is to be present with Christ. So if that is so, considering that, that means that the happy dead, let's say, as Adam Clarke calls them, is they are with Christ where Christ is. And Christ said that told the thief on the cross, "This day shall thou be with me in paradise." Whatever that place is, under the altar, souls under the altar doesn't sound like paradise. It sounds like something else. So what does it mean? So here's the way that I would take it from reading these together. The spirit goes to Christ at death. The spirit goes to Christ, but the soul, which is generally considered the life of the person, was poured out. The blood was poured out. And so when the blood was poured out, could be considered as poured out at the base of the altar on earth. That's the way I'm not trying to say I'm buying this. I'm just saying that's what I believe that Adam Clarke is trying to say, that underneath the altar is the blood, that the soul, the life that has been poured out, so that when Cain killed Abel, God said his blood was crying out to him from the earth. And so that is the idea. So the spirit of Abel would not have been on the earth crying out for vengeance, nor would the souls or the spirits of Christians be crying out for vengeance, I don't believe. Although there is another place that makes it almost sound that way. But so I'm not saying that's not a fact, that they may be calling out that it's time to stop, the killing and do that. But anyway, so you can think about that if you want, that there is the body who goes to the grave, that the life is cast out, is poured out upon the ground, and the blood that's poured out would symbolize that. And it's poured under the altar sacrifice, but the spirit goes to be with Christ. That's the way I believe it is. And I'm sure about ready to go get a cough drop, and you're ready for me to quit anyway. But they cried out with a loud voice, "How long?" Oh, this is where they cry out. So is this the soul, the spirit? Is this, and is, because we know that right now, those that have gone to heaven are in spirit. Their body's still on earth. They're not body, soul, and spirit. So, but is it that their blood is crying out? Now, that's what he would say. That's what I'm getting at. That that their blood, that their life, let's say, is crying out from the ground. "How long, O Lord, holy and true, will you refrain? Will you hold back, in other words, from judging and avenging our blood on the earth?" Not that they're calling for it, but in a sense, I guess they are. But anyway, it says, "There was given to each of them a white robe, and they were told that they should rest for a little while longer, until the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who were to be killed as they had would be completed also." And so, so these, and I believe, my own belief is that, as best that I can think right now, that those that are getting the white robe and getting ready for their time when they will be rejoined to their body, soul, and spirit will be brought together again in their new and in their new being when they are glorified. That they're getting ready for that, and the white robes are the white robes that are the righteous deeds of the saints. I'm going to have to quit at some point. This is a good place to quit, I think, right there. So I'm going to stop sharing. If I can real quickly remember how. Yeah, there we go. Stop sharing my screen. You can turn on your cameras, your mics. Do we have any question or comment? Hello, Steve.
I always thought that those crying out from under the altar were the martyred,
They are. Yeah, they are.
not just all Christians who died, but those whose life was taken martyrdom.
Yeah, and that's generally accepted. I think that probably is the case. I'm not saying that all of those, the ones whose blood, and that would again, the they would be under the all. I mean, their blood would be, their life would be on
Their
earth
soul.
because they have been, their blood's been poured out for that reason. But those that have died, like of our loved ones that have died, where are they? Are they on earth under an altar? Or are they in heaven under an altar? Or are they at the right hand of God the Father? That's the question. So I've always said and thought the same thing as what you're saying. But
Yeah.
now, as I've read this, I've thought, I wonder if he has a thought or a point that we ought to at least consider, And so, anyway, and I'm not saying we should buy it or anything of that sort.
And who is this guy? I wrote his name down. Adam.
Adam Clark. Okay, so he's a writer of commentaries like the Rogers that used to be at the church here. When they were
Uh-huh.
at the church here, I'm sure that's the commentary he used. He always used, and I'm sure all of the older preachers used Adam Clark's commentaries. And
Okay.
so, anyway, and
So
so
he
it's just
wrote.
a Wesleyan commentary, and
Okay.
yeah, and so I look and see what he says, and what John Wesley said, and that's about the only two I do anymore. Look to see just what they've said, and I'm not saying I agree with everything that they say,
All
but
right.
I do think it is worth consideration, to think
Mhm.
about it. That there is something to it. So, all right,
All right.
Interesting.
yeah, I'm not saying you got to buy it.
No, but I
No.
like to research.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
look it up, see
Yeah, I
see
like to
see what you
research.
come up with. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else? We ready to pray?
Ready to pray.
Okay, let's pray together. Father, we're grateful for the day you've given us. We're thankful, dear Lord, for the mercy and grace of God that keeps us. And yeah, we'll admit, dear Lord, and I for sure will admit that there's a lot that I don't understand, and that my understanding from time to time, dear Lord, may be challenged. And I know, dear Lord, that you're showing us your will, your way, and that you will, as time goes on, dear Lord, make things more clear to us because it will become more and more important that we uh, know some of these things. But I do pray now that you will remember the needs that have been mentioned, and that you, Father, will be with us throughout the days that come. We don't know the things that are going to take place in our world, and all we see the things that are preparing to happen. And we just pray, dear Lord, that you'll keep your people. Lead, guide, and direct us, and bring us back together again soon. And for all that you do and all that you are, we give you praise now, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. God bless you. And I will say then good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.